I'm Dana Russell with Kokopelli Real Estate and Property Management, and this is the Kokopelli Connection, where we discuss the history, happenings, and lifestyle of Western Colorado. Welcome back to the Kokopelli Connection Podcast. Today, we're joined by Greg Haitz, a candidate for Mesa County Treasurer. We dive into his campaign, his experience leading and managing teams, and his vision for improving how Mesa County funds are handled, including strategies aimed at generating stronger returns for taxpayers. If you're interested in local leadership and the future of Mesa County's finances, this is a conversation you won't want to miss. Greg, thanks for being here today. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and tell us why you're here, what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Greg Haitz. I'm a candidate for Mesa County Treasurer. I'm a local guy, born on the Western Slope, been here for several decades now. We've built our businesses here. I'm a doctor of chiropractic and I own Rimrock Wellness Center. Been doing that for about 23 years. My wife is in real estate, much like yourself. And then we've raised our kids here, built our businesses here, and put all of our roots down here. My folks are here. Andrea's folks are here. And so I think for today we're going to be chatting a little bit about maybe the role of the treasurer and all the ins and outs and what to expect on the campaign trail perhaps.
Yes. Yeah. So tell us first, what does the treasurer do?
Yeah, it's a good question. The most concise answer would be that the treasurer is kind of like the banker for the county. Mm-hmm. And so the treasurer collects all the tax revenue, so that's property taxes, sales taxes, and then invests those funds in different investment vehicles, which I've got some new information about that today that we can talk about if we get to it. And then also distribute those funds to all the different taxing entities. So it might be the school district, the library district. Say Clifton has that new fire district now that was passed, I think, last year. There was like a 1% sales tax increase. So the county will collect all those revenues and then distribute to all the different taxing entities. A lot of it obviously stays within the county because a lot of those property taxes stay in the county. And then, like I said, some of those funds go into different long-term investments, short-term investments, some of them very liquid, just almost like checking accounts. Money gets moved around periodically. And so that's the main role. There's a couple other things that the treasurer does. They send out the tax notices in January, and that comes from the assessor's office so that those assessed values come over in January, and then the treasurer gets those out by the end of January. And then the treasurer also, acting as the public trustee, runs the foreclosure sales. And those happen every Wednesday. And then towards the end of the year in the fall, then the treasurer also runs the tax lien sale. A lot of realtors are familiar with that. Yep. They've got a whole list of properties where individuals have just not been paying their property taxes. So it's a way for the county to then get those funds back again by someone basically investing in and paying off that tax that's owed. And then they get a return on that investment. I think it's up to 12% now, which is, if people don't know that, it's a great opportunity. Your money's safe and secured. If the individual can come up with the money and get the tax bill paid back, then you get your money back after 3 years, 12% return, and then you can go and do the same thing again. And so that's basically what the treasurer does. There's obviously other ins and outs. There's reporting that happens before the county commissioners periodically throughout the year as well.
What's your motivation behind running for this position?
So a little bit of the backstory, being a doctor of chiropractic, I've been doing this for about 23 years now. A lot of chiropractors, they kind of hit that 25-year mark, and elbows and wrists start to wear out a little bit. We bend over the tables all day long adjusting people, and so it's pretty taxing on the body. And I'm in my early 50s now, so kind of thinking towards what's retirement going to look like. Do I want to continue to treat patients in the clinic setting, which that's been the honor of my life. I've done that for, like I said, 23 years. I think we have 12,000 patient files now. And I have an associate at the office, and then I'm hiring a second associate to take my place when I step away for the treasurer's role. But really was looking for kind of a new challenge. My wife and I were both all about local control, local governance, serve where you're planted, if you will. And so my wife's currently on school board. I ran for city council a couple of years ago. Wasn't successful at that, but then we found some other individuals that were able to get into office and kind of re-steer the direction of the city. And so we've really been putting our efforts into things like that. And then I took the Inside Mesa County program twice now. Last time was 2 years ago. Great program. It's open to citizens. I think it's an 8 or 9 week class. So each week you go down to the old courthouse. One of the department heads comes in. It could be the sheriff. It could be the county commissioners. It could be the treasurer. Sometimes they have a PowerPoint presentation. There's maybe 20 or so people in the audience. Stephanie Reese puts that on with the county. And then it's about an hour-long class, and they go completely through their department, how it operates, how it runs. If they are an elected official, they talk a little bit about the politics of that and how they got elected and what term they're in, and how many terms are allowed, that sort of thing. And so that was kind of my introduction into county government, because I had obviously looked at city government. And after this last class, I like to ask a lot of questions. First class is just like shotgun, you're just a lot of information at you. Second class, that's when you're like, all right, now I actually have some thoughtful questions. And so I asked a lot of questions, and Sheila Reiner was the treasurer at the time, and so I was asking her quite a few questions. And then afterwards, she pulls me aside and she said, hey, Greg, you may be thinking about running for treasurer. And I told her, it hadn't really been on my radar, but I think it really fits my personality style. I'm very analytical. I like numbers. My wife gives me a hard time. I'm the guy with the spreadsheet with the 15 tabs open at the bottom, where calculations are going from one tab to the other, and I nerd out on that. Drives her nuts. But she's the one with the browser with all the tabs open, so we balance each other. And so Sheila and I started to chat about it, and she said something that really stuck with me. She's like, Greg, it'd be great to see someone take this department over when I'm gone, because she'll be termed out, and that would appreciate the work I've done and be able to take that work and carry it on. And I've always been of the mindset of when you get into something, when you decide to do something, especially in an organization, if it's a certain period of time or a term, to leave it better than you found it. Get in there, build on what's been there before, and then leave it maybe better organized, more efficient than you found it. And so I appreciated that she said that. Because obviously the treasurer's department, she'd been in there for 8 years, so it was kind of her baby. Those were her employees, and she did really good work. And it could be one of those positions where someone might just kind of run because they're just looking for something to do, but they don't even really understand the role. Yeah, they could get in there and sit at the desk and just delegate everything to the staff and be, the treasurer. But if you really go hands-on into the position, there's a lot of opportunity that you could do good work in the county. And so I appreciated that she said that, and I told her too, if I decide to run for this position, that's just how I treat those sorts of jobs. Really, like I said, leave it better than you found it. And so that conversation had gone on for about 2 years, and then she ended up resigning from her position, moving over to the finance director position, because I think the finance director took the early retirement option that the county presented. A little bit of a budget tightening that's happening across all of Colorado, but even in the city and in the county. And so they had offered kind of an early buyout on retirement. And actually quite a few county employees took that option, which is beneficial to the county in the long run, but sometimes there's kind of an early buyout. So the finance director took that opportunity, and then Sheila, knowing what she knows about finances and then some of the new software that the county's bringing in, it just made sense for her to move over to that position, which is an unelected role, so she's now a county employee. And that created a vacancy in the Treasurer's Department, and Arna Hoffman, who's been with the county for a number of years now, she's planning on retirement towards the end of the year, and she was willing to go ahead and step up and be appointed into the Treasurer's role to basically fulfill the rest of 2026. And so that was kind of my early interest into it, and then I announced last May, filed my paperwork on Tracer, and started campaigning pretty lightly. I think we had even talked about that. I wanted to put a lot of my energy into my wife's school board race. She ran for re-election, and so I was putting probably 90% of my energies there, and then the 10% behind the scenes was just get my website up and running, starting to talk to past Republican delegates to start to spark some interest in, hey, I know it's a ways down the road, but next spring we have caucus and assembly, and I'd love to earn your support. But most of that was just behind the scenes. And so I probably really hit the ground running more in September and October of last year.
And when is the election?
So the election's in November, and we have several different individuals running. So me going through the party platform, I went through the caucus and assembly process, and I have another Republican that's running as well. And so depending on how the assembly goes on Saturday, we may or may not have a primary then, but that's how the party handles all of that. And so having an opponent, we could go into a primary. So that would be an election in June. And then whoever wins the primary on the Republican ticket would then go on to November to face the other opponents.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. So what is one thing that you feel like you are ready to take on and improve or make Mesa County better as being a treasurer for Mesa County?
Yeah, so I've done this once before on the state level. I was asked to step up and run for a position on the Colorado Chiropractic Association 10 years ago. And the association was in kind of financial distress. The executive director was embezzling money, buying Rolex watches. It was just crazy. And we were probably $400,000, $500,000 a year revenue organization. And when I came on, we had like 10 grand in the bank. So we had to like fire the gal that comes in and cleans the floors and the toilets. So we just had our one employee, then she started doing all of that as well. Mm-hmm. So we went scorched earth, really trimmed everything down, and got in there, and we were able to kind of right the ship. But it took a good year to do that. And I learned from that experience that when you come in, don't just start changing stuff right away. You need to get a lay of the land, mm-hmm. figure out who's doing what are the roles, look at the financials, what are we spending money on. We had all these subscriptions to different medical journals and other stuff, which is like, man, when you're about to go under, you don't need to be spending money on subscriptions to, mm-hmm. Spine Journal or whatever. So we canceled all that stuff. We went scorched earth and got the ship right again. So now 10 years later, we're over $500,000 budget. We have a whole lobbying team. We've got a team of attorneys. And so we sometimes on occasion we'll run legislation. And so really proud that I was able to help get that organization to that point. So I'm going to apply that same principle to the treasurer's office. They have a rock star team. So the last thing I want to do is go in there and just start, shaking things up too much. So mm-hmm. I think I'm going to take that first year to really get to know the team. I know I've met most of them. I know a couple of them. Jackie Campbell, she was right under Sheila Reiner. She's great. She's been there for a while, and she really runs what you consider kind of the more front of house. And then the treasurer, kind of on the back end, is running more of the other administrative stuff. And so I think going in, getting to learn the team, start to learn all the processes, learn the software, kind of start looking at the calendar, the deadlines for everything. And then in doing that, look for opportunities for better efficiency. Are we really fully staffed? Who's doing what jobs? There's a lot that probably needs to be taken in. So I don't plan on going in and changing much stuff on day one. And then within that first year, I think there's an opportunity to look at our investment vehicles that we're currently using, and that's been the most recent research I've been looking at, is because we do have a few accounts where there's no fees from the banks, but there's also no interest rate either. And when you've got millions of dollars of county funds in an account, even if you get 0.2, 0.3%, that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars of new revenue into the county that is not subject to TABOR, because it's not tax revenue. It's just good investments. And so those will be the things I'll look for in the first year. And then the second year, 2027, that's where the Tyler enterprise software is going to get rolled out. I think Brent Goff's department, the assessor, they're rolling that out later this year. And then the treasurer's office will be rolling out their side of it next year. Okay. And so whoever's treasurer is going to be responsible for that implementation. I believe Tyler Technologies, they're going to bring a team out to help with the onboarding and the training. And I've called Tyler to try to get the inside scoop on the software. Do you have training videos? And they're like, well, it's proprietary. You have to be contracted with us, which the county is, but you're not yet. Yeah. So they told me as much as they could about the software, but it's going to be one of those just, get in there, learn it as you go. So that'll be a lot in 2027, but that's going to really streamline the communication between those two departments. Because right now, if you want to get your tax bill or an assessment emailed to you, well, you have to go down to the assessor's office, and they'll write down your email address, put it in their system, which is from 2009. This is like Windows 95, they keep patching it up with Band-Aids to keep it working.
Do they have the dial tone that?
Right, you've got mail. Yeah, exactly. And so there's a lot of redundancy. So you have to do that at the assessor's office. But then if you want your tax bill emailed to you, you have to go to the treasurer's office, which is upstairs, give them the same email address and they'll type it into their system. So with this new technology, this new software, it's all going to be interconnected. So you put in your email address here, it communicates with the Treasurer's Department, and it reduces that redundancy. And so that'll be a lot of the work that happens in 2027. But yeah, plan for the first year is get in, get to know the team, and then start looking for areas for better efficiencies, maybe better investments. And if we do go out and look for better investments, we'd have to go through an RFP or request for proposal and look at, local banks. What are you guys willing to offer us as far as, low or no fees? What kind of interest rate? They have to be, state statute spells out explicitly what those investment vehicles need to be. Anything above the FDIC insurance needs to be then collateralized by the bank. And so not all banks are set up to do those kinds of investment accounts. And the ones that are, I think, could be a little bit more competitive. We're currently with Alpine Bank. We have a lot of our accounts there. I think we're with Bank of the San Juans, UMB Bank, Bank of America, and then I think we even have some accounts at US Bank. And so just looking at all of those, getting familiar with those, how long have we been with them? Are they competitive compared to what banks are doing currently? And then at some point go out for an RFP and see what banks are willing to do. And then that would then go before the county commissioners, because then they would have to put together a resolution that they resolve that we're going to move our accounts and do such and such. So I think I could definitely tee it up, but I don't think it would be a unilateral decision on my part as treasurer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about when taxes come in, where they go, how they're allocated, how they're distributed, how you figure out what money to put where. Yeah,
it's kind of how's the sausage made? I've dug into it as far as I feel like I can. I haven't done any core requests yet. I have a good relationship with Sheila. She's been able to get me some of that information without doing a full-on core request. So I've got a spreadsheet now that I've been working through the last couple of days, again, looking at, all right, so we've got our operating accounts, mostly with Alpine, but then short-term investments, those go through, it's called LGIP, which is Local Government Investment Pools. And within that pool, there's one called Colo Trust, short for Colorado Trust. And a lot of municipalities and government entities put their money into that. And within that, they have short-term and long-term investment vehicle options. I believe at Alpine we have, like I said, we have operating accounts, which are mostly all just checking accounts, no interest bearing on those at all, but no fees. So it's kind of a numbers game. You have to look at, well, what would the fees typically be? If we're doing transfers 3 times a day on millions of dollars, what does that look like fee-wise compared to what if we got 0.2% interest on that? So that'll be stuff I'll be looking at. And then also within the Colo Trust, they have short-term investments too. And then also within the banks themselves, there's money market account options. And so I think that's some of the lowest hanging fruit. The county just did an audit with a third party, and they said, come in, look at our books, look at our investments, and then give us feedback. And this organization, their goal for every county and municipal government is a score of around 90, and we scored at 84, which is great. It means that there's no groundbreaking, oh my gosh, there's such opportunity here. But at the same, so we're doing really good, but at the same time, it looks like there's maybe a little bit of plug into these accounts and then let them just kind of do their thing. And so one opportunity would be maybe more frequent transfers from checking over to money market to get a little bit better return, which means a little bit work for the treasurer. Maybe once a week you make those transfers, maybe every 5 days, maybe every 3 days, I don't know. So that'll be something I'll look at too, because if it's sitting in the money market, at least it's getting some return, but it's still very liquid. You can have a certain amount of transfers per month on a money market. And so if it's at the same bank, it could almost just be like, all right, let's just set an alert to every few days. We'll make those transfers in and out. Wouldn't probably make sense if you could have an account with $1,000 in it, but if you have 10 million in there, that could be $10,000 a month extra just because we did some quick little transfers between checking and money market. So there's a lot that could be said about that, how the money comes in, what goes into the completely liquid account at Alpine that then goes right back out to the library district, other funds that are coming in that are county funds that'll go into the road and bridge budget. That money's going to be probably sitting there for most of the year. and there'll be some disbursements made as road crews go out. Some of that's going to be seasonal, right? So you're probably not doing a lot of asphalt in the winter.
Right.
And so maybe your expenditures are a little bit less in the winter on some of those different departments and crews. But then other taxing entities, say like, property tax revenue to the city, that's probably pretty close to an in and out. I don't know, maybe we hold it for a month or so. So I don't know entirely how that sausage is made, but that'll be part of the onboarding process, really getting a good feel for that. But like I said, right now I'm just kind of looking through the accounts, how much money's coming in, how's it invested, what's that rate of return.
Just a question, why is that process not more transparent, Greg?
So it comes out in the budget, and the county's done a really good job. I can't remember the software that they use now, but it's a very open, transparent software where you can go in, you can download the entire budget for, say, like last year or even this year, and a lot of it you can click into it, and it like balloons out is almost as much detail as you want. But at the same time, how often is money moved, when and where. You get this like yearly budget snapshot. And so you'd almost need to do and this would be a great question for Sheila. It's like, all right, if we did a core request for that, what would we even ask for? Because what you're looking for is a snapshot of maybe for a whole month, like money coming in from all the different taxing avenues, how they're moved into different accounts, how they're moved from there into these other accounts, and then as they leave the county. Yeah, it would be interesting. Maybe it'd just be bank statements. Let's just get all the bank statements and just start to go through. But the finance department, they put on a really nice presentation before the county commissioners, I think multiple times a year. And I think in state statute, they have to, present, here's the draft budget. And then I think they have another meeting after that where the county commissioners dig in a little bit more. And then before the end of the year, then they approve it. And so some of those questions are asked there, but county commissioners, they're more high level. They're just going to approve the budget. They're not so interested in the day-to-day of it. But citizens could certainly show up and ask those questions too. But I think a lot of that's going to come out once I get into the position and learn more about it. But some of that I hope to figure out throughout the rest of the year before I get to November, just so I can kind of see, those movement of funds and where it's coming from, where it's going. Absolutely.
So I feel like most people don't know what they pay taxes for.
Yeah.
And who comes up with those taxes. What role do you play in figuring out what taxes need to be charged? Or what role would you play, I guess?
Right. It's a great question. I would say the treasurer's office is almost entirely administrative. So no policy making. There could be some advocacy work at the state capitol. As the treasurer, you would be a member of the Colorado Treasurers Association. And I think sometimes they lobby and advocate for different bills and different legislation. But it's really the role of the treasurer to just go ahead and collect those taxes that all the taxing entities have approved. So if the county commissioners want to raise property taxes and then they put it out for the citizens to vote on it, we have Tabor, so citizens get to vote if they're going to be taxed or if taxes will go up. And say the citizens said, yeah, let's go do that. Like with Grand Junction High School, that was a bond that the district went out for. The citizens approved it, and then that bond then hit a starting point, and then it'll hit an ending point. And so the treasurer has no say in what that tax rate is, when it's approved or when it's not approved. All that's within the ballot language, and then it's approved by the voters. So then it'd be my job to then just go ahead and collect those revenues, which that will go, as a realtor, you're probably on the assessor site all the time. But if you go in there and you look at your property, you look up your property, it'll show all the different bonds and mill levies and mill levy overrides and taxing districts. And depending on where you live in town, there can be different tax rates and different entities that are taxing you. So it's treasurer's job just to bring those revenues in and invest them and distribute them for where they need to go. So really no wiggle room there as far as like, let's maybe drop down, property taxes because they're a little high right now. Treasurer's not going to do that. So that'd be county commissioners and the state legislature, which they did some of that. I think the state legislature, when we had the property taxes, because they're always in arrears, right? And so we had property values really jumped up, and then that 1 year, bam, everyone got hit with like a 40% increase in the property taxes. So the state legislature said, all right, well, let's exempt the first 50,000 of your property value for a year, maybe two. I couldn't remember what the timeline was on that, just to give people a little bit of a break. And then I think the county commissioners did something similar to that as well. So that would be legislature and the county commissioners. They can do that kind of legislative work on the local and state level. But as far as the treasurer goes, we just collect the revenue that they've told us to collect. Yep.
And where are those funds distributed to?
So here in Mesa County, your main ones are going to be the county, the municipalities, which would be Palisades, City of Grand Junction, and Fruita. Maybe a little bit to Debec. I haven't looked into that. But I mean, our roads, we go all the way down to Gateway. The school district is a huge taxing entity, so a lot of the revenue then goes back to the schools. Like I said, Clifton now has that fire tax. I think Fruta's looking at a fire and safety tax as well. I think it's a sales tax.
Okay.
That'll be, I think that's on the spring ballot, because they always run their elections in the spring. So that'll be, I think, next month. The voters will decide if they want to go that route. The library district, they're their own taxing entity. They talked about maybe a recreational district on Orchard Mesa to fund the pool if they decide to take the pool over from the district and do the renovations that are needed. And so that could be something. I don't know that we'll see that. It would have to be next year because the city elections have now moved to November.
Yes.
And
it correlates with the school board election.
It does.
This year is the first year.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
And so we might see something like that from the city next year, possibly. And then sales tax revenue. As far as like the marijuana tax with the city, that may not go through the county at all. I haven't looked at that. But those would just be some examples of taxes and revenues that come through the treasurer's office. So I'm basically the banker of the entire community. But then a lot of those funds don't stay with the county. They just they go to wherever they need to go to at a certain period of time. Yep.
So tell me what you've been researching.
Yeah. So I've already gone into it some, but it was looking at that third party investigation into our finances and mostly our investments, looking for low-hanging fruit. Are there opportunities to do a better job on those investments? And we did come back with a score of 84. One of the main things they recommended was, which I mentioned earlier, was maybe doing more transfers between checking and money market within the same bank. That's really easy to do. We wouldn't have to change anything. That's just more of an administrative, like, oh, let's just be more diligent about that. We don't have to do an RFP. We're not switching banks.
Yep.
We're not changing anything. We're just being a little bit more proactive and less passive on our money just sitting there. And I don't know what kind of revenue that would bring in. I'm going to run some hypotheticals on it. I need to look at what the money market's bringing in. Those were really good for a while when interest rates were really high. They're going to start to come down. I know we have a new Fed chair going to be coming in, I think possibly in May. And I think he's going to do Trump's bidding and he's going to go ahead and lower interest rates. And so that will affect money market accounts and other checking accounts as well. And so that'll be something to watch for too, because we might actually see some of those interest revenues go down a bit if the interest rates go down. But like I said, there could be other opportunities for other RFPs. So that's been most of the research I've done the last couple of days and just working with Sheila Reiner in the finance department, because she's more privy to that data and that information. Now the resolutions, so we have several resolutions that basically approve different bank accounts, and those are all recorded at the clerk's office. And so if I did a CORA request and I wanted more information about the different banks, it'd probably be a CORA request through the clerk's office to find all those resolutions and bring them back up. A lot of those are also recorded on the county website. If you go to the County Board of County Commissioners page, there's a place in there for public meetings, and then you can see everything that's been agendized. And then if there's any resolutions or contracts, oftentimes those will be itemized on the website and you can click into them as a PDF, which is quite convenient. So I was able to find the Tyler Technologies contract, which was, I think it was like 70, 80 pages. And that was right there on the website. And so that's something the county's done a really good job of, is they've got now this sunshine list that you can sign up for, and you get an email once a week with the Board of County Commissioners schedule. You can see, all right, so this county commissioner is going to go have coffee with, Palisade Board of Trustees. It's there on their page. And so there's a lot of transparency now. And so the budget's on there. Like I said, the Tyler Technologies contract is on there. So I've been able to find quite a bit of that information, but some of it I still think I'll probably have to do a core request just to get it out of the clerk's office. So that's been most of the research I've been doing the last couple of days. Again, just looking for within that first year, what could be some things I start looking for.
Have you looked at any other cities that use that Tyler Technologies, and how is that user friendly compared to what we have now?
So we actually currently have Tyler Technologies, but it's from 2009.
Oh, okay.
And so they've been having to do software patches, all these different things to keep it working. Because you've got old software trying to run on whatever version of Windows we have now. I don't even know, Windows 11, I think. And so you're trying to make old clunky software work on a new operating system. And so some of it won't change a lot, which I think would be the benefit of sticking with the same software vendor. But since it's so much newer and robust than the old program we have, I'm sure there's going to be still a fairly sharp learning curve on all of that. I have reached out to a couple of the communities that use it. It sounds like there's quite a few municipalities in Colorado that use it as well. So it's not just county government, municipalities use it as well. I've reached out to a couple of treasurers in other communities to see what, are they using that software, and if so, what version? And I'm still waiting to hear back. I chatted with a gal up in Glenwood, the treasurer up there, so waiting to hear back what she has to say about that. And but yeah, it sounds like it's very user friendly. I think there's more opportunities for transparency. Things can be emailed out instead of just, mailed out. So that would probably save, a stamp and an envelope and so forth. But again, without looking completely behind that curtain, it's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, it's going to be much better for the taxpayer, and they can get more access to the information that they're looking for. And then as far as the treasurer getting the assessor getting all the property values assessed and then moving it over to the treasurer's department, sounds like it'll be a lot more seamless and straightforward, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is your campaign going?
It's going good. Like I said, I started last May, got pretty serious about working on getting my delegate support around September. That's when my Republican opponent texted me and said that she's thinking about running as well. She didn't actually formally announce, I think, till the first week of January, so she got a little bit of a late start. And so I have a lot of delegate support going into the assembly tomorrow. And so we'll see how that goes. I anticipate it'll go really well. But then based on that, depending on the percentage of delegates that she and I get, that will then determine whether we have a primary or not. And then if we do have a primary, then it's kind of like campaign season 2.0. So instead of just working on delegates and getting through the assembly process, now you're doing a primary election. And then if you come out of that successful, then you have the general election in November. So it's kind of like, it's a little different than running for city council, school board, where those are like a 2-month campaign season.
Yeah.
And you just announce, and then it's just like crazy town, and you have a forum or a debate once a week, and you're filling out questionnaires, and then poof, it's the election time, and you either win or you don't.
Yeah.
So this is a lot different. It's like, it'll be over about 1.5 years of campaigning for me before it's all said and
Wow,
done.
that's quite some time.
Yeah, so it's like these little windows of like, well, how's it going right now, and then what's the next thing? And so right now it's getting through the assembly tomorrow and seeing how successful I am there, and then if I have a primary, then that's my next battle.
Do you foresee any real uphill battles?
I don't. Like I said, we have a lot of individuals running right now. So 2 Republicans. We have a Democrat that just filed. He's also running for Palisade trustee, which is legal. You can run for 2 offices at the same time. I think that election is probably next month as well. I think Palisade does their elections in the spring. And if he's successful there, he'll have to resign out of the treasurer race. He's a Democrat. He's run before in the past. I think he's run a couple times for county commissioner. I don't know what he's been up to lately, but so he's the newest comer. And then we have a gal that's running on the Forward Party ticket, which is a minor party. So I believe if you run on a minor party, you probably have to petition onto the ballot. So go out and get probably 1,000 signatures or so.
Since it's really not based on policies, or how do you differentiate yourself from other candidates? It seems a lot different than traditional elected positions, at least how you've described it.
Yeah, historically, if you look at the treasurer races in Mesa County, oftentimes it's uncontested. And part of that is, it really is, it's not a very political role. Like, you're not going to go in there as a Republican or as a Democrat and like, oh my goodness, now abortion laws are changing or the border situation's different. No, you're the treasurer. Your job is explicitly detailed in Colorado revised statute. And there's a published calendar that all treasurers use for, like, this is exactly the date that the first tax notices go out, and here's the second tax notice, and here's the deadlines for when those have to be paid. And so there's really very little area for nuance and creativity, and obviously no policy making at all. But for whatever reason, this election cycle, there's a lot of individuals interested in treasurer.
Yep.
I didn't think I was going to run completely unopposed, but I wasn't expecting to have potentially 4 other opponents. And so that's a little different. I was asked about this also on the, I think it was KKCO the other day. I can only really chalk it up to maybe just the political climate that we're in, that people are becoming much more engaged and interested in local government, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
And more people stepping up, showing interest. And so really then, what differentiates one opponent from the next as far as treasurer, I would say, is more on the side of their personality, how they tend to lead teams. Have they ever led a team before? Have they ever had employees before? So I've ran teams for over 20 years now. When I was on the state association level, we had an executive director, a legal team, 3 or 4 different employees, and then 22 board members. And I was the president of that organization for a year. And so, running a large team like that, and then down to my office, which were just under 10 employees. So hiring, firing, even how the hiring process happens. And so Sheila invited me in, I think it was last year or the year before, to help with some of the interviews. They were interviewing for a new treasurer tech position. And Jackie Campbell put on most of the interview. She's the deputy treasurer, so she's just under Sheila. She's unelected, but she's a rock star. So she put the whole interview process on, and they had like solo cups, and they had to play these games. It was like a team building, but for interview. And so it's like, how do they work together? And so then based on that, we picked like our top 2 and then took them into another room and then did interview questions. And then out of that, then picked the top person. But that's a big part of the job too, is like, all right, if you have an employee that leaves, well, it's time to interview for a new employee. And so what's your interview process going to be like? That's all completely within the purview of the treasurer, because it's their department. So you're a department head. It's administrative in nature. It's very precise. It's analytical type work. And like I said, that's just where I live. Like, I currently serve on my church's finance board. I've been treasurer on different boards before. My HOA just asked me to be the treasurer on their board. I'm like, I can't take on one more thing. But I'm just naturally good with that stuff. And so I think picking a candidate that's their gifting, I think, is a good place to start. If they've been a business owner, they've had employees, they've run teams, I think that would be something to look for and to look at. Do you need to be a CPA? No. You don't need to know how to do QuickBooks. They don't use QuickBooks as far as I know. Do you have to be proficient in Tyler Technologies? Well, no one is unless you work for county government. And so there's some things that just aren't going to translate over. If you have a finance background and you understand investments, and so I enjoy that as well. I have long-term investments. I do swing trading, also do a little bit of day trading, so I understand how the markets work. So I think having some of that knowledge could be helpful.
Yeah.
But I don't think, for the day-to-day of it, I don't think you're going to need to know a lot about different types of investment vehicles. But understanding, at least on a surface level, when you're looking at what kind of investments the county has and can we get a better return, could be helpful. But our last 2 or 3 treasurers now, over the last 16 plus years, I don't think any of them had a CPA. They weren't bookkeepers. I think they came out of maybe a clerical background, a secretarial type work, which is totally fine. And then once you get in, you can, lean into it as much or as little as you really want to. And I would say most of our treasurers over the last, at least 2 treasurers, that was the last 16 years, were very hands-on. They were putting in probably 40 plus hours a week, especially during tax notice season.
Yeah.
And so they were very hands-on. Now, someone could probably go in there and not be nearly as hands-on. I plan on being very hands-on. That's just how I operate. That's what I've done for 20 plus years. And so I want to learn all the different duties and jobs in the treasurer's office. I want to know who's doing those, how they're doing that. So if we do need to replace someone, should we maybe allocate those resources to a different employee? And maybe, that's where you can start getting creative. But if you don't really understand any of the roles and what the actual work is that's being done, then you really can't be, you're just not going to be as in tune to that. So to your question, which I know it's a long answer, but yeah, you're not really looking for a CPA per se. You're looking for someone that can run a team, that understands the administrative side of it, and understand that it's not a super political role. You're not going to go in there and always be on the front page of the paper for doing amazing work. It's a lot of behind the scenes type stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for those kind of accolades, it's probably not the right position.
Speaking of the political climate, budget, finance, along with transparency has kind of been a big topic. Has that come up in your campaign? Have you been questioned on transparency? What your feeling about transparency is in this type of situation or type of role?
Yeah, I would say a little bit. I mean, with Trump going in and then, bringing in Elon Musk and doging the federal government, I think that's got a lot of people more aware of that, whether you liked that they did that or not. Yeah. There's a heightened awareness. I know the school district, they did a bit of that. They kind of doged their central admin, and I think they found almost $2 million in extra revenue there by consolidating positions and moving departments around and maybe eliminating a few positions. The county's done somewhat of the same. I think they did a 10% budget reduction across all departments. They did a bit of a hiring freeze for non-essential employees. I know Brent Goff's office, I think he's down 2 cartographers, and so they, as far as I understand how it works, I think they help put together a lot of the GIS mapping and whatnot that goes into this assessor's office for different subdivisions and that sort of thing. So he had 4, now he's down to 2. Can't really replace the 2 right now, so the 2 have to do the work of 4. And so I don't think as much of that's happened in the treasurer's office, and part of that I think is they haven't had a lot of turnover. There's decades of experience in the treasurer's office, which is great. A lot of good experience there, so we're not going to go into the department with a bunch of newbies that don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But that has been asked on the campaign trail. Is there more transparency? Why is my property tax bill so high? And a lot of that's just a quick formula. It's like, well, here's the state tax rate, here's the county tax rate, do some quick math, and there's a formula for that you can look up, and then that's why your tax bill is what it is. And the treasurer has nothing to do with that. We just collect it. And so you need to talk to your state legislature or maybe possibly your county commissioners. And so a lot of it's just more education on what's the actual role of treasurer and who you need to advocate to when it comes time to, if you don't like your tax bill. I mean, property taxes on commercial property, I think it's like 27%. It's a really high rate.
Yeah.
And especially when the assessments went up, a lot of commercial building owners were just aghast by that. And I get it. 27% is a lot.
It is.
So if you've got a small space and your tax bill is $10,000 a year, it's like, whew, or $20,000 a year. I had one gal reach out to me yesterday. Hers is like $26,000 a year.
Oof.
That's a lot.
It is.
I get it. And I can't fix that for you, but maybe we can put you on a payment program. And that's something Sheila Reiner did too. She found out a way where we could legally allow individuals to pay monthly instead of once or twice a year, especially if you own the property outright. If you're in your 80s, you've owned your home for decades, all you have is your property tax bill, it's still difficult to make a one or split it into 2 payments if you're on a fixed income.
Yeah.
So allowing them to pay that throughout the year and escrow those funds to make sure the county still gets their revenue, but the individual's not, left with a $1,200 bill, each year that can be sometimes difficult to pay.
Yeah.
So,
if people want more information on you and to learn more about you, where can they go to find that?
Probably the best place is my website, gregfortreasurer.com.
Okay.
I have an About Me page, kind of my story. I've got a blog on there where it's more of the deep dive, nuanced information that I've been putting together. I have a binder that I carry around with me because it's a very detailed position. It's a very detailed job. It's not like county commissioner where they're talking about water rights periodically or agriculture. It's like there's is very nuanced to the treasurer's role. So I've created some blogs on there that specifically talk about Tyler Technologies and some of the other ins and outs that I've been researching. And then there's some endorsements on there. I'm proud to have the endorsement of a couple of our county commissioners and others throughout the community and throughout the state. So if you wanted to look at those as well, there's a donate button on the website too. So pretty much everything is there. And then my Facebook page, which I think is also Greg for Treasurer or something like that. I campaign updates pretty much daily, sometimes a couple times a day will be on there as well. And then as soon as this is out, I'll put a link on there as well so folks can see it there too.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then do you have an event coming up where people can talk with you and get to know you a little bit?
So the plan is to get through Assembly tomorrow.
Okay.
And then when the dust settles, then it'll be Campaign 2.0, and then that'll be then setting up meet and greets, probably different fundraiser events. I might do some online town hall sort of things for those that just can't get out really easily. And then there'll be tons of opportunities for forums. I would expect some from the Republican Party, maybe Restore the Balance, maybe League of Women Voters. And so those will be throughout the community over the next 6 months or so. Mm-hmm. And so just watch for those. I'll be posting those on my website. We'll probably be seeing those pop up in the newspaper and elsewhere too. Yeah. So nothing set in stone right now other than getting through Assembly tomorrow, and then we'll see what's on the other side of that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then the elections November.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for sitting down with us. This was very educational. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Yes, certainly.